Hello, this is the video for the mobile app design class for Thursday on week 15. So on Tuesday, we worked a little bit more on the web page. Well, I'm calling it a web page. It's an app that we're building as a web page, but we worked on the home page. And today, what we're going to do is we're basically going to finish off that home page so that it's in a position where it could be used as a template to make the other pages in the app. So here are the files you're going to download for today, my app 4. Go ahead and download those, unzip them, decompress them, and then of course, as usual, what you'll have to do is go into Dreamweaver and set up a new site to point to those files. So you'll go site, new site. Um, you could call it my app 4 or whatever you want to call it. Click on the little folder. Go find the files. Now I already have a my app 4, so I'm going to have to call mine something different like my app 4B or something like that. Oh, this is interesting. It usually gives me a red error message here if I've named it something that I have already. So maybe it doesn't think I have this name in my list of sites already. But regardless, I'm glad it's not giving me an error message. Anyway, it might give me an error message when I hit save. It might say, you already have a, a site that's pointing to this folder. And sometimes that error message comes up and it really, you can ignore it if you want, if you just have one site that's pointing to a folder that you care about, and you can go delete the other site if it's an old site that you don't care about. So anyway, my app 4 pointing to the my app folder that you decompressed, and then you hit save. Yeah, see, this is what it's saying. It's saying this is the same one as another site I set up, and this might cause conflicts and stuff like that. But the solution to this is just get rid of that other site and just leave the one that you want to use. So anyway, I don't think it's going to cause any conflicts, so we'll just work with that. All right, then of course you're going to open this up, open your www folder, and then of course if you open up wildcore.html, this is the file which is the same as where we left off in the last video. So we basically have everything ready to go for this next video. All right, so where are we with things? Well, we've got all our icons in here, we've got all our buttons in here, and now we've got everything linked to the page that it's going to be linked to, although those pages don't necessarily exist. But like if you click down here on this world image right here, you can see that this is ahref equals #world. The pound sign means go to that page, and the page you should go to is the one called world. And so true with each of these is linked to the page that it's going to go to, right? Okay, so what needs to happen now are a couple of different things. First of all, we need to create the drop-down menu that will happen when you click on this hamburger menu button. And so to do that, what I did was I went out on the internet and I just found some code that will work for that. So let me go ahead and open up Wildcore 2, which is my finished file. It'll be where we end up today, and it's got some code on it that I'm going to need. So let me go there. So what I did was I searched on the internet, for a mobile hamburger menu, and I found this link right here. Now what I've done is I've made a comment right up here at the top of my page, right above the code that I used, and I said this hamburger menu was hacked, meaning that I messed with the code, I customized the code from the code at this location, and I put in the URL here. So that just tells me, where it is if I ever want to use it again or double check it or anything like that, or in this case, just show it to you guys. Let me get rid of that asterisk at the end. And so we're going out to W3 Schools and to see their mobile nav bar demo here. I apologize. My Firefox for some reason is like ridiculously slow these days, so I think I'm going to abandon ship on that. Chrome is faster for me right now. Ooh, oh, sorry, I got to get rid of that little asterisk thing. rid of that. Okay, there we go. So this is one of those pages, you know, W3 schools, they teach you how to do things and then they say, try it now. And then you click try it now and you get the code over on the left-hand side and the actual page on the right. So that's what this is. So this is what I was going for. You click on this and a menu drops down, right? Now there's all kinds of different ways you can configure these menus. You could have it be a pop-up. You could have it slide in. In this case, we're just dropping it down. Now what I did was I literally just grabbed the code over here that I needed and pasted it into my page. And let me show you what that code is so we can understand it. So once again, wildcord, just the regular file, is the old file, and wildcord 2 is the one with all the new stuff that I've done on it. So what we're doing today is taking the wildcord file and adding code to it until it gets up to the level of wildcord 2. So the first thing we have to do is we have to add in some code which is going to produce the effect of clicking on the button and opening you know, that menu from the top. And that is JavaScript. And if we go down to the bottom of wildcord 2, we'll see that there's a brand new script here. And it's everything between these two script tags. And it says, you know, my function, get element, my links, you know, open up the blocks of that. In other words, what it's going to do is um, the menu which opens up is referred to as my links. That's the name that they've given that menu. And so this JavaScript is going to say, hey, when somebody clicks on that hamburger menu, go ahead and open up the my links, and it's referring to the display of that menu as a block. And you'll hear that phrase in CSS and JavaScript mentioned, especially in CSS. There's something called display block, and you can see it here, display block. Display block just basically means display everything, right? So in other words, the way this is being built is the menu is being built so that it's actually always there. The menu actually just exists right here in a big block. However, what happens is the block is made invisible or transparent until somebody clicks on this button, and then it displays the block. In other words, it changes its attribute from invisible to visible. And then when they click on it again, it becomes invisible again. So that's how you create these kind of drop-down menus or hamburger menus. They're there all the time, but they're invisible, and then they become visible when you click on that. So that's essentially what this does. So what we'll have to do is, you know, you'll have to open up both the wildcord and the wildcord 2 files. So you'll have to go to the wildcord 2 file. And you'll have to grab this block of code here and copy it. Then jump over to wildcord. Go all the way down to the bottom and drop in the script here at the bottom. You should be able to drop it in. Let's see. I'm gonna go back here and see where I put it. Oh, right before the body, the end body tag. And in fact, I'm going to tell you one more thing too. I think we should get this script here that says text JavaScript Cordova too, because I think we're going to need all that. So let's grab all this, copy that, and then put it right before the end body tag on wildcore.html. So you click right here, right before the end body tag, you can right click and just do paste. Okay, so that's one component of what we need. We need the script that will make that little button work, right? Now, the next thing we need to do, we have to take the button itself, this little guy here. Let me click on that so we can, hopefully, it'll go to it. And you see this is up at the top of the page. It's the one which is called IC_menu. We have to take that button and we have to, you know, add the code to it so it's the one that triggers that JavaScript. So what we're going to do is in wildcord 2, we're going to click on that little hamburger button. It's going to take us up here. And everything that you see highlighted right here, that's just the button itself. Oh, by the way, it opened up on the wildcord 2 page because, you know, it's actually the working script. If you click on that, that'll probably happen. However, the things that are on either side of this button are the things that we're going to have to add in. So Let's go ahead and do that. And let me just point out what those things are. You got your image itself, but then you have an A tag in front of it, this long tag right here that has the, on click my function. That's what's calling the JavaScript. So from here, let me click up here. Okay, from here to here is the beginning of the A tag, right? And so what you're going to do is you're going to copy that, and then you're going to jump over to the wildcard. You can click on that button again if it helps you locate it, but mine is still clicked on, so it's located. Now what we're going to do, there's already an A tag wrapped around this image, which is a link tag, because we linked it to something called #menu. That's what I thought we were going to call our menu. But now we're just going to replace this entire A tag with this new code, this new A tag. So just highlight that whole A tag, right click, and do paste. And it's going to go ahead and paste in the beginning A tag, right? Beginning of that A tag. Now let's go back to wildcard2.html. And now, in addition to getting the end of the A tag, we also have to get this sort of strange code right here. Where is it? Where is it? Here. There's this thing called I class equals FA bars, and then end I. And this is what helps control these little bars to open up. So we're going to go ahead and grab that whole thing. So from the I class all the way through to the end A tag. We're going to go back to wildcard 1 here. And we're going to highlight our A tag. And we're going to replace that with this new bit of code, which has the A tag plus the I tag, I guess I'll call it. Okay, so what have we done now? So we've got the script, which makes this menu happen. That's at the bottom. And now we have made this button a link, which powers that script. Now, that's all good, but the next thing we need to do is we need to create an area called My Links, which will be basically a list. It'll be a menu of items that will open up when we click this. Because if you recall, down at the bottom, it's looking for something called My Links, and that's what it's going to open up as the menu. Now, My Links was part of the code I got from that W3 Schools site. And so what we'll have to do is go over to the wildcard2.html file, and we will have to find that My Links section. Let's see. Okay, and here it is right underneath everything we were just doing. We just grabbed that I code in the A. And right here you can see this thing that says top navigation menu, right? So you can go ahead and highlight all this code here. You'll notice that there's a div that starts here and it goes all the way down to here. And we want to copy the code from maybe from this text that says top navigation menu all the way down to this div right here, not this one and not that one. So one way to tell how much you need to get is just click on the top div and it'll highlight the bottom div, and then you can say, okay, I want all this, and I also want this code that tells us what this section is called. So we're going to copy that, and we're going to go back to wildcard, and we're going to make some space underneath here. Now, you'll notice that there is a div tag right here, and that is for data role header. And I believe that is this div tag right here. Yeah, you can see because when you click on it, it lights that up. So that means that when we paste this stuff in, we have to paste it in front of this div tag. So the best thing to do is click after this A here, which is after the I's, hit your enter button, and then go ahead and paste that new block of code. Okay, so, and if you ever want to check to make sure things are looking right, you can always click over here and see what's going on in this window. Now, right now what's happening is it is in fact showing the list of all the links, but they're not properly formatted. So far, we have the JavaScript that powers this button. We told this button to go ahead and trigger the JavaScript up here, and then the button and the JavaScript, once triggered, will reveal this. this list coming down from the top. However, the one thing that it's missing is style. You can see there's all kind of gumbled together here without any kind of style. So once again, that was something that I got from the W3C Schools site, and that style is up here at the top of the WildCore 2 page. And it's right after my little comment here, my great comment about the hamburger menu. And it's these three styles here. They all refer to something called top nav, which is this section right here. In fact, you can see how nicely formatted it is here because these three styles exist on this page, right? So what you want to do is you want to highlight these three styles, which are, what's responsible for formatting that. You want to copy those. Well, actually, you know what? Let's go ahead and copy all the way up to and including this comment here, because then we're getting the complete information, including the link, right? So now what we're going to do is we're going to go back to our WildCore HTML page. We're going to go up to where the style tag starts, and of course this is our internal style sheet. We're going to hit our enter button to go underneath that, and then we're going to paste in our new code, right? Now when you paste in your new code, theoretically this thing should start working. So if we click on it, it opens up, right? Now if this doesn't happen for you, and then we click on it again, it should close, right? If this doesn't happen for you, it's a good signal that something didn't go correctly with your copying and pasting. So you might want to stop at this point, go back, check everything. One of the easiest things to do is just check the WildCore page against WildCore 2 because everything over there is correct. Make sure everything looks right. If you miss something, fix it up right now so that it all works. Okay, and so this works, and we can always test it out over here in the actual browser. Oh, well, that's looking pretty good. I love it when it looks this way. So obviously something is completely jacked, which I'm not sure really what it is, but let's see. I think it might be, let's see, I'm on the WildCore page. Well, this page hasn't been saved, so that could be part of it. Let me see if my background, yeah, my background is in there. So I don't know what's happening with that, why it's so jacked. Let's see, is there anything that I forgot? I don't think so, but I'll go ahead and save this page anyway. And let me double check on a couple things here, make sure everything's right. Okay, yeah, I think I just needed to save that page because now when I go and I look at it, it looks correct. And of course, you can test this out, make sure that's working. And if you want to see what it looks like here. It is going to push the content down, but people won't care about that. They're just caring about the menu right here when they're looking at the app. Okay, but I'm going to open this browser back up so that, it takes me back to this. It's kind of confusing what's what. Okay, yeah, that's why I'm going to open the browser up. When I test this out, I'm going to look at it like this just because it's easier to deal with. Okay, so we got that to work. We have the menu working now. And one of the things that I've already done is I've already gone in and written the names of the links on the menu here. And of course, these are the same links that are here, and they're here as well. And I've also gone ahead and linked them to the actual pages. So world will go to #page, right? And of course, when you're working on your websites, you can just relink these to wherever you want them to go. Now, this homepage here gives an example of what I call good redundancy. When we hear the word redundant, we usually think that's a bad thing, and probably it usually is. But in something like web design or app design, redundancy can be a very good thing because what it does is it gives people lots of options, different ways to get to the same place, right? If you think about it, this homepage is really just the same 5 links over and over again, in 12 different ways, right? Or really 3 different ways. These are the 5 links, world, campaigns, rulebook, composition, community. They're located right here in what we would call the main content area, and those are just direct links to each page. But also they're here, and one more version of redundancy, they're down at the bottom. So really, it's about navigation. You've put the navigation at the top, you put it at the bottom, and you've put it in the middle. Now, we know that the main thing that's going to change from page to page is this middle area, the content. So that will go away on all the other pages, which means then there'll just be two versions of this navigation, one at the top and one at the bottom. Now, we generally do that kind of redundancy, so if somebody's near the top of the page, they can easily click here and get to where they want to go, or if they're near the bottom of the page, they can click here. However, since this is an app, and since this top bar and the header and the footer bar will always be visible, that means all we're really doing is saving the user basically one click or one touch, one tap. In other words, the thing that they would probably use the most often is this down here, as long as they can remember what the icons are, because it's the easiest access. You just touch once with your finger and you go to that section. But if they forget what those are, or they're lazy, or their fingers near the top of the screen, or maybe they just like using hamburger menus instead of icons, then they can click that and then click on, they can touch this and then touch the link they want to go to. So it's one extra tap that they have to do. But I know that when I use apps, um, sometimes I just like to use this because it's so easy. It's thoughtless in a way because it spells it. It's right there. It's top right corner, always there, available for you. Click on it, and then it spells out the names of everything. You don't have to spend a second thinking about what all these things are. And if you're going to the right place, you can just speed it up by clicking on that and clicking these. So, different strokes for different folks. Everybody has different ways they like to navigate around, and you're providing them with lots of opportunities. Now, the other link here, of course, is the home link, which will take you back to this page. Okay, so what else do we need to do here? Well, there's two other things that I've done that I think are fairly important. One of them is I addressed an issue which Aaron brought up, which is what happens if you want to have a different page background for every page, right? Because the code that I put in on our little app that we're doing here, which makes this background image, is this code right here. It's the body code. And remember, body, when you use the word body, it basically means the entire web page. So anything that you put inside of a body style is going to affect the entire web page. So what we did was, or app I should say, we said, hey, use this particular image, which is the sunset, and make sure it's scrollable, make sure that it fills the entire screen, blah blah blah, right? However, if we go make a brand new page, it's still going to want to put that that background in. So the question is, what if you want to have a different background on every single page? Well, here's a solution to that. If you want to have a different background on every single page, that means you're not going to use this code right here. Oops, that closes it up when you click that little triangle. That means you're not going to use this code right here. Instead, you're going to take this same code and you're going to put it in a different location just so that it applies to this page. And then when you make a new page, you can take that code and you can call a different background image. All right, let me show you what I'm talking about with that. So for example, just notice for a second that there's 5 different styles here. They all start with the word background that are all necessary for this to be the background for this page, right? Okay, so what I'm going to do is I'm going to highlight this whole thing, and I'm going to come over here in Dreamweaver, and I'm going to click on this little thing that looks like a comic book word balloon or whatever, and I'm going to come down here and I'm going to apply this thing called it's the comment, which has, it's the asterisk sandwich, which is / asterisk, and then /. And if I click on that, what happens is it comments out this section. It becomes gray, and of course, it stops working, right? We see that that's not happening anymore for this page. Now, if I want to go ahead and put this background, that sunset background, just on this page, what I have to do is I have to go down to this page, right? Which is this div right here. It's ID home, data role equals page. This is the beginning of the entire page, right? And what I have to do is I have to put what's called an inline style. And an inline style is where you create a style sheet, but you create it right here in the tag. Instead of up there, an internal style sheet, it's right here. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to take that same code and I'm going to put it in the background of just the page instead of the background on every page, right? And so what I'll do is I'll click here and I'll make a little space, right? And once again, I'm going to go over to Wildcard 2 where this is already coded, and I'm going to bring that in, right? So what I'm going to do is come down here, and I'm going to find this thing, which is div id home data role equals page, and I'm going to grab starting here at this tag, at this text here, which starts with the word style, and I'm going to copy that, all the way to the end quote here. And I'm going to come back here, click in that empty space that I made, right click and paste it, right? And then if I click over here, there we go, it pops in. Now, what did I do? Well, if you want to make an inline style, in other words, a style specific to just this tag, which in this case is just this page, you have to start with the word style, which is this right here. And what that does is it creates basically your own little style sheet. You can see that this style sheet we have at the top starts with the word style and ends with the word style, right? Inside of a tag, you only need to use the word style once. And what you do is you just write style equals, and then you put a quote there, and you put a quote at the end. And then you write all of this code in here is written in exactly the same way that the code is written here. It's all written in a line instead of vertically like this. So for example, background URL images c5.ping, right, is exactly the same line. Where am I here? Let me go down. Oh, here it is. I've graded out, right? It's exactly this same line right here. Background URL images c5.ping. So basically, I've just typed all of these things in a line right here. And so I've basically transferred all of that code into just this tag, in other words, into just this page, and then commented it out here. So it's not applying globally across the whole app, it's just applying here. Now I've also done one more thing here, which is a key thing. After every style, so in other words, this says background URL images C5 or whatever, I've put this text here. Exclamation point important, right? Now, exclamation point important means use this style over all others. In other words, if when the computer is looking through the styles, all the different styles, it finds two conflicting styles, two styles that are both trying to style the same thing in two different ways, it will use the one with the exclamation point important over the other one because this is more important, right? And so notice that I've put that at the end of every single one of these styles here, right? So that what I'm saying is, regardless of what other instructions you have, all of these styles apply to this background to put it on this page, and it overwrites all the existing styles, right? Now, when I was talking to Aaron, he had an interesting comment. He said, well, for his app, he basically wants to have one background for every page except for his homepage. He wants a different background for the homepage. Now, in a case like that, and that's not true for this app, so I'm just demoing something here. What you could do is, let's pretend that for this app, we wanted to do exactly what Aaron is going to do, right? So we could uncomment this, and you can uncomment something by highlighting it, and then, to comment it, we clicked on this balloon here, but we click on the balloon below to uncomment it, right? Now, if I uncomment that, which means taking it back into, bringing it back into action, now every single page of the website is going to get that image right there, right? That sunset. However, I already have my code in here saying, oh, but for this home page, we want a specific image, which happens to be this image right here. In the images folder, it's called c5.ping. Well, all I'd have to do is make a brand new image, exactly this size, put some different graphics on it and call it c6.ping, put it in my images folder, and then just right here, just say, hey, instead of C5 on this page, I want C6, right? So what it would do is, on the home page, it would use this code here because it has the important tag. And it would show C6 because remember, this important code is going to trump this body code here because it has the word important on it. So it's going to be more important on this particular page. However, on all the other pages, I would just take this junk out, this whole inline style thing. I would take that out on the other pages, and then all the other pages would use this command to have the sunset background, right? Okay, so now when it comes to our wildcard app here, we can leave uh, this uncommented because that is going to be the background on every single page. But it is important that you use this information as reference for if you want to have a different background on different pages of your app, then you'll have to do it like this. Okay, but on this particular app, we're not going to need it, so we could save a little space here by grabbing this whole style and deleting it. And then, of course, it would go back to just using the same background for every page. Okay, so that was one thing I wanted to do. Now, the last thing I want to do, and this thing I have to apologize in advance, it could be perceived as something of a drag because it has to do with copying and pasting a bunch of code. Now, I'm not going to ask you guys to do this for this sample app here, but unfortunately, you'll have to do it for your app. And what I'm specifically referring to is the idea of having more than one image available for the different phone resolutions. Okay, so for example, we're making this specific app. This wildcard app is being made just for the iPhone, right? Because most of you guys and I have iPhones, right? And of course, we could easily make it for the Android platform as well, but we're just focusing on the iPhone. Now, when you make something for the iPhone, an app for the iPhone, it always wants 3 versions of each image. And it calls that 1x, 2x, and 3x. The 1x is the image at 100%, 2x is it at 200%, and 3x is it at 300% of size, right? And the reason is because of the different resolutions on the phones. Now the problem is, if we go to the wildcard.html page, if you click on any image here, like this world image, you'll see that there's really just one image in here, which means we don't have the 2x and the 3x version of this image. So if we want to go look at this on a newer iPhone, it might not display properly. Now there is a way, all of those images were actually made for us when we exported the code from XD, and we can see that that's the case. Like this one right here, this first one here, well, it's got a really stupid long name, buttons contain enabled, this is the name right here, buttons space dash contain space dash space enabled dot ping. That's an incredibly long stupid name. However, if we open up images here, you can see that, let's see, that one is right here. You can see that we do have an image called buttons contained enabled, but we've also got one called buttons contained enabled, and then it has the @ sign, and then it says 2x, and then right below that we have buttons contained enabled, and then the @ symbol, and then 3x. So in other words, XD was nice enough to make all 3 buttons for us. And so, but the one thing it didn't do, because we didn't ask it to do any code, is it didn't write the code to display those buttons. So that's our job, is to create the code. Now, fortunately for you guys, you're not going to have to do that with this wildcard app because I've already gone ahead and done it for you. But in your own apps, you are going to have to do it. And it just takes a little bit of time. Like I said, it's a slight bit of a drag, but once you get the hang of it, it can go pretty quickly. So once again, the trick is this. For every image that you have on this page, you actually need to have code that shows what all 3 possible images are that could be used by the phone. When we look at an image in the code, that image is brought forward by something called a source tag. SRC stands for source, and then it says equals, and then quote, and then it's got the name of the image, right? The way to go ahead and make it so that the computer has access to all three buttons is we need to add a bit of code here, which is called a source set, and its code is src set. And what that means, you say source set equals, and then you put a quote mark, and then you just list all three buttons, and then you end the quote. And you have that in there in addition to the source. So in other words, the default will be that it will show this first button, but then it'll also have access to those other three buttons. So let me show you what it looks like for this particular button. And what we'll do is we'll jump over to the wildcard2 file to see that. So, we can close up this menu if we want, so it's not distracting. Click on the world button here, and notice that, just like in the other code, we have this thing called image source button contain enabled blah, 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 right? But right after that, we have a brand new piece of code here. It's called source set, src set. And what happens is, in that, we've got that stupid long name of the button again, which is buttons. Let me highlight this whole thing so we can see it. It says source set, and it's got that long name of the button again, buttons dash contain dash enable dot ping. But then afterwards there's a space, and it says 1x and then comma. In other words, if the computer is reading this and the phone that it's on is displaying everything at 100%, go ahead and use this image. Now then, after the comma, it's got the exact same code again, the only difference being that now at the end of the name of the image, we put @2x.ping, right? So see, this is the original name, buttons contained enabled.ping. For the 2x version of it, we call it buttons contained enabled @2x.ping, and then there's a space, and it says 2x, and then has the comma. So there's two changes there. We put the space 2x at the end, but we also put the @2x at the end of the name before the PNG. And then, of course, the very third image, the last image in here, is the identical format, right? Images buttons contained enabled @3x.ping space 3x, right? So what that means is if I were to take this whole block of code that starts at source set and ends at, the 3x quote, if I copied that and I go back to this wildcard.html, and I see where my image source link is right here. If I click right after that and maybe make a little space and then right click and do paste, well, for some reason my paste isn't working. Let's just do edit paste. Okay, then now what I've done is I've added this source set tag, which goes all the way to here, into this block of code, right? And so what that means is now when a phone reads this, it will have the option to go 100%, 200%, or 300% because it'll know where to go to look for those buttons. Now this is what the drag aspect of it is you basically have to do that for every button on here. And so there's 5 right here, there's 5 down here, and then there's 2 up there. So I did it, like I said, I did it on the wildcard2 thing, and it probably took me 10-15 minutes of cutting and pasting, or copying and pasting, and it was a little bit of a drag, but once I got it done, I was done, and I was able to finish this off. And so if we go look at the wildcard2.html page, you'll see that everywhere you look, every button that you click on in here has that source set in it, which immediately follows the image tag. So here's the source set, and they all look pretty identical. The only thing that changes is the name of each button, right? And so what I did was I was able to just do it once and then copy and paste it in, and then just change the names, of each of the images so that they match the original image name, and then I was good to go. So it's a little time consuming, but once you're done, and it's good. Okay. So, and if you guys have any questions about that, any problems with that, I'm more than happy to help you. I want to reemphasize that as you're working on your apps, I'm happy to have you send me your code and tell me what your issues are, and happy to help fix those with you. And of course, I'm not looking for you to finish every single page in your app. We're just looking for what I call a skeleton version, or a skeletal version of your app, which is just a few pages that are linked together, so you can see how it works. Really what I wanted you to do was get to this point, which is, code a whole page, the whole homepage of an app, and then replace it with your images and your graphics and text and stuff. Because once you've done that, everything else is pretty much a cakewalk. We've done all the hard stuff. At this point in the next video, what we're going to do is we're just going to take this whole page and we're going to copy the code for it, paste it underneath the existing page, and then just delete this content and put in new content for a new page. And then we're golden. We're just dropping in new content for our new pages. The only thing that's a little time consuming is, doing things like writing these source set tags for the different images, right? But other than that, everything is pretty straightforward. Okay, so normally when we do these tutorials, what I have you do, we go ahead and make all the changes to the wildcore.html page, and then it looks exactly like the wildcore 2 page, and then we're good to go, right? In this case, we're not going to do that because there's so much code that I had to copy and paste for those source set tags. In this case, the wildcore.html page is not going to end up being complete. It is not the final version of the page. Wildcore 2 is, right? And I'm not going to ask you, like I said, to put in all that code. If you want to, you can go ahead and save the wildcore.html page. But in this case, I just want you to know that the complete page, the one that you're going to want to reference, is wildcore 2 in this My App 4 folder. Now, one last thing I wanted to comment on was, if you recall, um, let's see, in the old files, I had this icon down here which has the little helmet with the big old horns going way out, and I saw that it was bigger than everything else, and I didn't really want that. So if you look at the Wildcore 2 HTML, you'll see now it looks like Batman or Catman or something like that. I basically just chopped his big old long horns off and gave him little horns popping up. I think he looks kind of funny, like a little cat burglar or something, but maybe it's not entirely appropriate, but I think it's cute and I like it, so I'm going to leave it. And it looks a little better. It's a little more consistent with the spacing. So that's the last thing that I did for this app. But as I said, this app is all ready to go. This home page here will work on an iPhone and it will look good. It's got all the images, all the links work. And so from here on out, our task is just going to be, as I said, duplicating the page code, pasting it in, and replacing the content. And that's what we're going to do in the future videos. Okay, that's going to be it for me. So I hope you guys have a lot of fun working on this. Let me know if you have any questions. Remember that, as we're doing these tutorials, the idea is that you go in and work on your uh, app as well and try and sort of catch up to where we are in the tutorial. And as I said before, if you have any questions or problems, please let me know. Okay, so have yourself a great weekend, and I will talk to you again next week. Bye now.